Okay, so let's say you want to take some data that you want to put it together in a matrix, but you can't because it doesn't match. So say you've got some names, ages, majors, and whether or not they like cookies. So clearly this can't all go together because if you try to put this in a matrix, it's going to yell at you because this is a structure of text. This is, what do you call those? Numbers. This is more structure of text, and these are Boolean. So if I try to combine them all, it's going to yell at me and be like, you can't do that. So I'm going to create this by putting it into a table. Now, it took a little bit of playing around, but it's important to note that in order for this to work, I had to have them all be vertical. So I spent some time making them all just like normal, and then I tried to do the thing like I do like that, so it kind of made them all go this way, and I'm like, well, that doesn't work. So I tried to do this, and I feel like this didn't work either for some reason, and I'm trying to remember why. Okay, yeah, so basically what it did is it converted it and then put it into the table, but then it lost context of what this was because it didn't put in name, it put in name transpose, which doesn't have a title, so it just called it variable 1, variable 2, variable 3. So instead of dealing with all of that, it was just better from the get-go to make all of the entries that I'm going to put into the table the right shape to begin with. So I'm going to make them vertical, 4 by 1s, 4 by 1, 4 by 1, 4 by 1, 4 by 1, and 4 by 1, like that. And then whenever I make my table, everything's already in the right order, I guess, and organization, and so the table comes up just like this. So this is how you could create your own table if you don't want to import something in from Excel. So again, I could go in and I could say this name, and it's going to list all the names, or I could say where is this age equal to 20, and I could just be like this dot name is this age equal to 20, and it's going to tell me the chicken person is 20 years old. So that's a good way just to kind of get started there. Now there's also something kind of neat that you can do whenever your tables have matrices in them. So I kind of call them tables with subcategories. So you have your name, and maybe this is for jobs, so you have a minimum experience, salary range, and so you kind of put this in here and you got your little table. So something like this. So you have your different name of your jobs. I guess I should have called those jobs. Shift, Alt, Enter. No, just the next one. Instance, Alt, Shift, Enter. There we go. Jobs, job, job. Dog walker, cherry picker, eye roller, kitty snuggler, the minimum number of years experience you need, the salary range, and then we have our little table here. So what you can see now is that the salary range is divided into 2 columns because there was a min range and a max, a max on the range. So I thought that was kind of neat. Whenever I accidentally did that, I did not do it on purpose. I just accidentally put a matrix into a table and then it worked. So I got kind of excited, which is kind of how all programming happens, is you accidentally do something and then it works and you're like, woo! So let's put this together. We've got ourselves a little table. I'm just going to make this a little bit easier to see so I can rerun it and it's not all gigantic. All right, so there's my table. Okay, so let's play around. Let's go see if we can find the job. Just going to walk you through a couple of examples. Find the job with the minimum required experience. So, okay, so this is called blah. Min experience required, and I need the minimum of that. So this is going to be real straightforward, just the min of that. So that's going to be, well, that's going to give me the 0, but I need the job that has that. So it's going to be the blah.job of that. Blah.job of min equals, oh, okay. So that's not going to work because, okay, so this is not a 1 or a 0 like a true or a false. This is the actual number. So what I got to do is I got to say, okay, so where is the job that has the min experience that's equal to the min of everything. I guess I shouldn't use the word min twice, but that's just how it works. Oh, there we go. Okay. So this is the job where the min experience equals the minimum across everything. Okay, so if you don't like the way that that looks, you can separate it out into two options. So you can kind of get my index, like index or value wanted would be like the min blah min exp, and then blah dot job would be min exp equals value wanted. Okay, so you're getting the same thing both ways. If it's just a little bit easier for you to see it this way, then that's fine. It's just another way to kind of look at it. But this is kind of putting it in one line, this is putting it in another line. Now, if you don't like seeing it in a cell array, you can, I believe, access it using curly braces, and it'll just come back with dog walker. So if you know ahead of time that it's going to be text, you can say give it to me as text. So, well, that's kind of nice. That's one less thing to worry about. Okay, so that's the job with the minimum experience required. Now, obviously what you don't want to do is just hard code in 0 here, right? Because I could change these numbers up here and then your code isn't going to work anymore. So you always want to make sure that whenever you do stuff like this that you're not hard coding in actual values. All right, find the minimum salary across all jobs. So the minimum salary would be in there. Okay, so blah dot salary range min. Okay, so that's giving me the 23 and the 28, because that's the 23 and the 20 and the 88. So I want the min of both of those, really. So there's actually two ways I could do this. I could get the min of the min, but I also know that in this case the min is in the first column because that's going to be the smallest of the two pairs of values. This is unique to this example. So min of the min is probably the way I would kind of go long term on this. Come here. But I think maybe just for the purposes of showing that this is a possible thing to do, I might say, let's see, blah.salary range. I want to access, so now I'm going to look at this as like a matrix. So you see, oh, that's weird. Rows, columns. Okay, so now it's talking to me like these. I don't know why it's talking to me about age. That's not even here. But you see how it's talking about rows and columns because salary range was a matrix. So now I can access like this is just a normal matrix. So I can be like all rows, first column. And that gives me that 80, 23, 62, 99. So salary range, all rows, first column. Just right there. So that's pretty fabulous. So this is kind of everything coming together. So if I'm looking for the, I said the maximum and I did minimum and no one said anything. Here, I'm changing this word to minimum. Yay! I fixed it. So obviously maximum, I would change the 1 to a 2 and move on. So if I wanted to find the minimum in that column, I could get 23 again. Alrighty? So now if I wanted to find the job that had that lowest possible salary, I could pick whichever one of these that I liked. And and be like goal. I'm just going to call that the value that I wanted because that was I'm starting to get too many things. The job that offers the lowest possible salary. So blah.job and where the lowest possible salary. So I want the salary range to equal the goal. Let's see if I can do it like that. Cherry picker, is that right? Cherry picker, yay, I did it. That's quite a range on that job. Anyway, so I didn't need to specify whether it was on the low end of the salary or the high end. It just found the first thing that matched to 23 and it went kind of nuts. So my guess, and I guess I could test this out, is if I changed, Kitty Snuggler to also start at 23, that it's just going to come back with Cherry Picker. Because it's just going to go with the first one. Oh no, look, it pulled them both. Look at Matlab. You are so precious. I love you. Aww, this is great. I'm just like, I'm sorry. Matlab just gives me joy every day in a whole new way. Find the average high range salary. Okay, I'm just going to like live in my little happy world for a while. So the average high range salary, so blah.salary range. Okay, all rows, second column, and I want to average that. No, because average isn't a thing. I want to mean that. High range salary, so 95. Is that really right? Okay, I feel like I gotta check. 100 plus 89 plus 88 plus 103 divided by 4. Is that? That is 95. Is that what I got? Yeah, 95. Okay, good. I got the right answer. Sort the table by the minimum experience required. Okay, so I think we discovered this earlier. Sort rows. Oops, I need actual code to do this. Sort rows of blah by min experience. Hot potatoes. This is amazing. Look at me. I'm doing stuff with tables that I didn't even know was possible because I was originally going to record this video about structures, and then I was like, I'm going to find out what's the latest news about structures, and apparently the latest news about structures is nobody's using structures anymore, loser. So anyway, this was really fun. So I hope you enjoyed learning about tables and tables with subcategories, because now I've got like all kinds of fun things I can go do with my free time now. Woohoo!